Ambassador of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela in St. Lucia, Her Excellency Life Escalona, has questioned the U.S. rejection of Nicolas Maduro's re-election in the presidential poll as a pretext for geopolitical maneuvering. Escalona expressed this view during a sit-down with radio show host Stanley Lucia this week. The U.S. has also offered a $25 million reward for Maduro's arrest.
This candidate, who lost the election, he went to Argentina, he went to Panama, he visited Biden too. He tonight is going to Costa Rica, for example. And some few presidents of the region are inviting him like a president, but he's not a president. Our president is Nicolas Maduro. But this one is part of the manipulation, is part of the strategy that they did before with another person in Venezuela, like Juan Guaido. Never exist, but they recognize him. It's part of the game.
Journalist Earl Busquet has accused the mainstream Western media of bias in its coverage of the Venezuelan presidential election. He claimed that the media misrepresented the situation, failing to acknowledge the complexities of the electoral process and what proponents view as the legitimacy of Nicolas Maduro's re-election.
Every time I tell people I am in Venezuela, or I just came back Venezuela, or I'm going to Venezuela, the immediate question is it safe to go to Venezuela? And nowhere else is safer than Venezuela, because everybody could walk through the streets with no problem. In the story of Venezuela, which is not being told by the usual suspects in the international media, led by Elon Musk on his X platform, but also contributed to by others.
The U.S. has imposed sanctions on both Venezuela and Cuba. This week, news came of a measure of relief for Cuba, which has been subjected to a decade-long U.S. embargo. Busquet has called for an end to these sanctions.
The two major parties in the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats, they are playing poker, political poker, with Cuba and Venezuela by playing around with the sanctions, playing drafts, playing snakes and ladders, shifting them around to their own benefit and not to the benefit of the Cuban or the Venezuelan people, because in both cases, those were decisions. The decision to impose a bounty on the head of President Maduro has to be seen within the context that the United States and Venezuela are both members of the United Nations. And according to the United Nations Charter, under the United Nations Charter, a member state cannot take such an action against a fellow member state.
According to a press statement from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on January 10, 2025, quote, "The United States rejects the National Electoral Council's fraudulent announcement that Maduro won the presidential election and does not recognize Nicolas Maduro as the president of Venezuela," end quote. The statement adds that, quote, "The Department of State is increasing the reward offers to up to $25 million each for information leading to the arrest and/or convictions of Nicolas Maduro and Maduro's Minister of Interior, Diosdado Cabello. The department is also adding a new reward offer of up to $15 million for Maduro's Defense Minister, Vladimir Lopez. These three reward offers stem from criminal narco-trafficking indictments announced in March 2020. End quote. Gina Filippi, HDS News Force.